I think having a sense of purpose is crucial, particularly in sports. I mean, you have, as an athlete, you have a platform and you could reach a lot of people and do a lot of good things. So I think to have, a game is just a game, or, whether it's a job, you have a 9-to-5 job, it's just a job, but there's a lot more to it. If you think about bringing more to the table, you can help people, and that's what life's all about.
One great example of playing with purpose for some people is representing their country. And you got an opportunity to represent Israel. Talk about how that fed into your purpose of sort of expressing your Jewish faith, your heritage, and was there a purpose associated with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been to Israel, but I did play for it. So yeah, for me, there's not a lot of Jewish athletes, Jewish baseball players. And when I was playing, I became sort of the one that the Jewish fans look to as, a Jewish athlete, a leader, and all that. And I embraced it because I was proud to be Jewish, and I was proud to be in that position where there aren't very many of us. There's a lot of Jewish actors, a lot of Jewish producers, and a lot more Jewish owners of teams than there are Jewish players, right?
Right.
So to be in that position, I felt like every city I went to, I was welcomed, and I had a whole kind of Jewish crowd. They'd say something to me in Hebrew. I didn't know what they were saying, and I just kind of like, yeah, same to you. But I appreciated it. And
yeah, of course.
I was proud, and to be able to play for Team Israel as kind of a player coach and have all these Jewish players, it meant a lot to everyone to be amongst the teammates who were experiencing the same things and were looked to in their communities and around the country as Jewish leaders.
Yeah.
And you actually set out some games, didn't you, over your career because of Jewish holidays and so forth?
Yeah. For Yom Kippur, there was Sandy Koufax he's at the bar, and he is someone I got to know as a Dodger. He'd be around in spring training. We'd go to dinner, and he's just a total Jewish expression. He's a mensch, just a classy guy, and the kind of guy you want your daughter to marry, right? And his whole thing was like, look, you got to do what you want to do. I did what I felt was right, and when it conflicts, I'd always look at the schedule when the season started and say, okay, when's Yom Kippur? Because it's at sundown to sundown. Mm-hmm. It's late, usually late September, sometimes October, and it didn't conflict for a long time, and then all of a sudden in 2001 it did conflict, and I was trying, what am I going to do? We were playing the Giants, and we were a couple games back. It was, it was a key series, and I decided to miss one game, play one game, and miss one game because it was because my thing is I didn't grow up in a particularly religious household, but I also, I was proud to be Jewish, but I felt like if I didn't show up for 2 games and I was, hitting third on the lineup and a key part of the offense, then that wasn't really fair either. So I figured I wanted to show my my fans, Jewish fans, like, hey, I respect the holidays, so I sat out the one game. And, it was after 9/11, so there wasn't much fanfare, in the media, there wasn't much attention. But then a few years later, there was a lot of attention. I was kind of not really surprised. I was not really expecting it because of 2001, but all of a sudden they're on talk shows talking about just religion in the workplace and, outside of sports and all that. It kind of triggered this whole thing. But for me, that's why I did it the way I did.
Was there another game a few years later that you again had to make the same decision?
Yeah, so 2004 I did the same thing, and then again when I was with the Mets. So I mean, LA and New York, 2 big Jewish populations. So there was a lot of focus on that, and every time that's kind of what I did. I just said I'm going to play a game and sit a game if it conflicts over 2 games. And
how did the teammates respond to that?
Yeah, they were great. Yeah, I mean everyone was. Totally respectful, and there's a lot of guys that have strong faiths in in baseball, and I'm sure a lot of sports. So they definitely respected why I did that.
Yeah, I was going to say the thought might be that there's some negative feedback because you're hurting the team by not coming out, But as you were saying it, it made total sense that of course they're going to be supportive of you because that's just, you know, we're all, at the end of the day, we're human beings.
You're
right,
together.
we're a team.
You respect the other, and you want the best for them, and you want the best for you. And but yeah, but that's good for you for taking that stance and that position. And I think that's really important for everybody to really understand what's really important to them. Under the hood, when you peel the onion back, you know, it's not just, oh, we're here to win games, here to win games.
Right.
It's just a game.
It's just a game.
It's just a game. And there's the thing called life, and you need to have balance in life and what's really important to you and what drives you. And sometimes that's the thing that drives you that you may not be aware of at a conscious level. Once you uncover that, can lead you to far greater success. Because you're doing it not just for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is you want to win for your teammates. You want to win for the organization that's providing you the opportunity, and you want to win for the fans. And then, you know, everyone has their kind of side, you know, focus. So for me, it was being a Jewish athlete, but then I had teammates. You know, we had one point where, you know, if you really stretch it, you can say there's 7 different languages on the bus. We had, you know, Japanese players. We had Taiwanese player, Korean player, Spanish, French Canadian. I mean, we had.
Wow.
Yeah, we had all English. I'll throw Hebrew because I know a few words. That's it. But I mean, we had a lot of different people, and so, you know, if you have Eric Gagne, whose French was his first language, and he's Canadian, he has that whole world that's, you know, looking to him. And you see a lot of that in places like the NBA or whatever. You have players coming from all over the world, and in their little communities, like they're playing for that whole community.
Yeah, 100%. Did you feel like that was not, I don't want to say pressure, but something that, knowing you were representing Jewish people, that you carried that with you? It's kind of like if you grew up in a neighborhood and your parents say, you know, you're representing my family when you go out, so don't do anything, you know, bad after midnight or whatever.
For sure.
Is it sort of the same thing where you felt like you wanted to do better because you were representing people of the Jewish faith?
Yeah, and it was important for me. So when I left Toronto has a great Jewish population. I got traded, and kind of, that's a whole long story, but I could kind of help dictate where I was going because I was a year away from free agency. So that enabled whoever was trading for me to sign a long-term deal. And it was important to me to go to a big place with a big Jewish community. I was a little scared in New York because I figured going to play for the Yankees, or, you know, particularly the Yankees, but the Mets too, would be overwhelming, going there with a big contract, all the pressure, and then throwing the Jewish thing on top of it. That would have been tough. So I think there's a lot. I think LA was the perfect fit for me because it's, you know, probably, I think, the second largest Jewish population in the country. And to come here and wear the same uniform that Sandy Koufax wore, and
special.
Yeah, it's special. So that was definitely a big factor for me.
Yeah, there's a guy that I love, David Hawkins. He wrote a book, Power versus Force, and in his book, he speaks to, you know, like, what is power and what is force, and force is really the will. It's really just within our own personal being, wanting to have success, wanting to have money, wanting to have fame, whatever, wanting to rise the corporate ladder, the business world, and power is really coming at it from a much different place, a much deeper level of meaning. It has meaning. And when you come at it from that perspective, the universe conspires with you to bring it about, because it's just not about you. It's about your community. It's about your family. It's about some cause you have, or society as a whole. And so it's a really cool concept. I completely believe in that, and it's uplifting, you know, to come at it from that perspective, and it can motivate you above and beyond. You know, when you get tired, if you're doing it for a lot of other people, it's going to move you, I think, to want to perform even better and represent even better.
I love that, you know, power force. But, you know, I think too, what happens in sports particularly is, I think some guys accidentally fall into different movements. You know, I played with guys who, you know, one guy was against the war, and just, you know, he didn't stand for what you would call it, he stood for the national anthem, but then he didn't stand for, like, the God Bless America.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I, you know, have an opinion on it, but it became something that he really believed in, that he was against the war, and it sort of took on a life of its own. And I think it happens a lot in sports where it's sort of, they're attracted to a certain, you know, a movement or opinion or whatever, and they start to kind of stick their toe in the water, and then all of a sudden it becomes a big thing, and they dive into it. And sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, but I think it's interesting how that happens sometimes.
Yeah, and I think you saw it when the NBA was in the bubble, because it happened. It was the summer of George Floyd, and how many of those players really took off the cause of Black Lives Matter, and it became much more important for them to play basketball in a situation they really didn't want to be in, because being in that bubble, from what they all said, was kind of a tough spot, tough way to live, tough way to play, being away from their family for such a long time. But they felt the responsibility because they had the platform, as you mentioned earlier. And so it's interesting.
Exactly. And I think back, you know, to kind of bring it back to, you know, your point is, I think when there's a purpose behind it, then it's so much more powerful, right? To be able to do that, and it just takes on, like you said, the universe conspires to help you if it's, you know, something that is, you know, a lot of people get behind.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
This is the part where we're supposed to tell people to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Okay, will you please do that then? I mean,
Yeah.
if you enjoy it,
Yeah.
please do.
And if you don't, do it anyways, because we need your help.
We do.
Also, we have a website called GameChangeNation.com. Just go there and subscribe, and you'll get tons of free content.
And what we're really trying to do is create a community of people that love sports.
Yep.
And the great lessons that we learn from sports, but we want to hear from you.
We do. So we're going to have a bunch of social media pages, from TikTok to Instagram to Twitter to Facebook. Instagram, I probably already said all of them. Please join them and tell us your stories. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, and we wrote a book.
Oh,
Forgot about that.
Forgot that.
The book is called Through the Tunnel. It's available on Amazon now. If you go straight down here to this link that you can see below us, you will be able to purchase it. We'd love it if you could do it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.